For the first time, Construction Week is organizing an event around data centers. India's data center capacity is projected to experience considerable growth, with the current under construction capacity additions estimated to reach 1.03 gigawatts by 2028. Mumbai has emerged as a major data center hub in Asia Pacific due to its strategic advantages, including the largest number of undersea cables and cable landing stations. India's data center market is expected to increase from $4.5 billion in 2023 to a projected $11.6 billion by 2032, boasting a CAGR of 10.98%. Having understood so much, I think it's time we move on to the event. And I would like to call on stage Indrajit Sauji, Group Publishing Director, ITB Media India, to welcome you all.
On a more serious note, it's truly a pleasure to welcome you all to this first event by ITP in the data center space. This is our debut Data Center Leadership Forum 2025, organized by Construction Week. As India's digital economy expands, the need for data centers, data storage, as well as processing power is accelerating like never before. AI, IoT, cloud computing, and 5G are fueling demand, making the data center industry one of the most dynamic sectors today. Over the next few hours, we'll unpack the factors driving this growth, analyze investment opportunities in this sector, and discuss innovative strategies to navigate the challenges ahead. Before we delve into it, let me take a moment to acknowledge and thank some key people who have made this event possible. Ms. Devi Shankar from Anarock. Here. Your expertise and support in curating this event have been invaluable. A huge round of applause for her. Our partners who made this event possible: Boon, Edam, our gold partner; Dormakaba, our silver partner; Xpedeon, our category partner. And a special shout out to Ashish Kumar and Captain Edwin Sandana from Boon, Edam for pushing us to create this forum and guiding us to do this data center event today. A round of applause for both of them. Ashish, I can't see you in the room. Captain is here. And of course, a heartfelt thank you to all our panelists. Your presence here today brings immense value to this conversation. And to all of you in the audience for taking time out on a busy Friday afternoon and being with us here today. Thank you so much. And a round of applause for all of you for making this event possible. Today we have two panels and very interesting topics. Building the future. This session will explore the latest trends, innovations, and hurdles in constructing next-gen data centers. Then the panel 2 would be talking about scaling India's data center industry, investment and infrastructure priorities. Here we will delve into the investments landscape, infrastructure expansion, and policy framework shaping the industry. And since many of you are meeting for the first time, let me take this opportunity to introduce you to what exactly ITP does, who we are, what we do. And instead of just telling you, let me show you a small AV. Please sit back and enjoy this AV that highlights our journey, our vision, and the impact that we bring across various industry sectors. Can I have the AV, please, Fareed? With this, let's get started. I now hand over the forum to Jayashree, who will lead us into the next discussion. Thank you. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your day. Thank you.
Thank you, Indrajit. Can we have the Boon Edam AV play, please?
Bienvenue. Bienvenido. Welcome. Welcome to the first moment you enter. The first steps. Taking you into a new experience. A journey which begins with us. With us, you're in safe hands, inside and out. And inside, your day starts. For more than 140 years, we've ensured people feel welcome and secure. We are Boon Edam, your entry experts.
I would now like to invite Ian Goldsmith, Global Head of Sales, Royal Boon Edam International BV, who will tell us about how data centers are springing up around the world and its imperativeness in the world today. Ian?
Good afternoon. Hopefully this works. First of all, just to introduce myself and why you have this balding English guy standing on the platform in front of you. I first joined Boon Edam in the UK a long time ago, in 1993. I had a bit more hair when I started, I must say. Worked in the architecture and security consultant space ever since. I now work for the parent company of Royal Boon Edam, based in the Netherlands. And last year, Boon Edam celebrated 150 years and active over 60 countries around the world, including our subsidiary, which is based here in Mumbai. I must thank Captain Saldana for actually asking me to, cajoling me to be here today. I was only visiting, didn't realise I was going to be public speaking until a little while ago. We are the trusted partner of many of the largest tech and data center companies in the world today. I first visited India as a very young student about 35 years ago. The India I see now today has absolutely nothing like the India that I saw 35 years ago. But remember, 35 years ago, I didn't have a mobile phone. I don't think the internet was invented. Laptops they had to go in a cold room to keep them cool to stop them overheating. So it's hardly surprising the world's changed. But when we look at the growth in India, and especially the data center market, you can see there's significant growth, and it's projected to continue to grow through to 2029. Data center capacities reached 1,600 megawatts, but it's going to continue. And it's expected that another 475 megawatts through the end of this year. Digital economy is a huge contributor to the total economy. 11.74% of GDP is in digital economy, with 2.55% of the workforce. Since 2006, GDP growth in India has averaged 6.4%, so it's outstripped every other economy in the world, making it now the 5th largest economy in the whole world. When we look at the security of data centers, we need and believe that there's 3 levels of security. Deter, so this discouragement, it's advising someone that they shouldn't actually enter a facility. Detect, you basically want to find out if someone's coming in when they shouldn't be. And that could be alarms, turnstiles, other security devices. And then finally, prevention. We also believe that when designing a data center, there should be a layered approach with 6 separate layers to ensure that the security of one of the most vulnerable and critical parts of our infrastructure are protected. The first layer is the perimeter defense. Effectively, we're looking at fence line security. This turnstile basically tells someone that they shouldn't be entering the facility. Into that, we enter a clear zone. Now, Boon Edam don't do a product that helps you in the clear zone, but it's a very important part of the whole layered security system. It's effectively an empty zone where CCTV can be employed to actually detect those intruders, people we don't want within our facilities. Obviously, if there was a vicious dog also running loose, then that might actually also deter people from entering the space. But in this moment, CCTV is king. The next layer, layer 3, we're actually in the reception area. And here, we're looking to detect intruders. And that's when we look at optical turnstiles, such as our Lifeline, which is employed by many of our global partners around the world. Here, if someone decides to try and tailgate, either intentionally or unintentionally, it will find the person, alarm, and alert the security room accordingly from there. As we enter further into the product, we start to enter areas which are exceedingly vulnerable but very, very important. And here we're looking to prevent people as we enter the service corridors. And here we normally look at security revolving doors, doors that can prevent tailgating and even prevent piggybacking. There's a little video here that shows those two, tailgating and piggybacking in action. In this first instance, we have an authorised employee and his colleague who follows into the next segment without presenting a code. As you can see, the product sees that person has tried to enter without authorization. They both have to leave the product and are guided away by security. The next example are two people trying to squeeze into one segment. Again, the product sees that two people are getting in, which is called piggybacking, and security takes them away to understand should they receive entry into the product or not. But how is that achieved? Well, when I first started selling 25, 30 years ago, we used to use a very crude weight cell. If what was ever was in the space weighed more than 130 kilos, you got rejected. Well, 130 kilos is quite a lot. And it's quite obvious that two of many of the people in this room will be able to gain access. So following that, Boon Edam then looked to provide a unique solution to prevent the piggybacking, which is our stereo vision system. What it does is basically infrared cameras which actually detect within the sensor, and what they're looking for is actually measuring how many people, what shape, and the shape of the people that were in the product. The data they then analysed and then compared with certain settings within the product. The next slide shows what it looks like if someone's tailgating. And you can see there's actually clearly two shapes within, or two different heights which detect the heads within the product. A single user can also be rejected sometimes if they're behaving in a strange way, and that could be carrying a backpack, wearing a sombrero or a big brimmed hat, or maybe carrying a pet through the product. So these systems can be fine-tuned to suit the individual circumstances at each of the data centers or locations. One of the most protected areas of every data center is obviously the data room. And there you have to prevent people gaining access. And we do two solutions. One, the Circle Lock Solo. This is one of our most popular high security products. Essentially has a low capacity, but almost guarantees that unauthorized access can't be gained into the product. In the UK, we've sold this to, the home of James Bond, MI5, MI6, Ministry of Defence, Government Office, Home Office. And that's the same around the world, with various defence departments and institutions use this as their last line of defence. The Circle Lock Combi is the ultimate solution to prevent anti-tailgating, anti-piggybacking, but also maintain fire resistance. We can basically attach to an existing swing door, interlock them together, so that in the event of a fire, the fire integrity of the data room is managed and continued, whilst in normal operation you deliver anti-piggybacking and anti-tailgating. Your very last line of defence is obviously the data cabinet. Again, Boon Edam don't have a product here that helps in that situation. But obviously, it's the very, very last line of defence, and there's a lot of proprietary products out there which use either keypads or proximity cards to prevent unauthorised access into the data cabinets. This is just an example of some of our global clients. We'll trust Boon Edam to ensure that their facilities and the security of them are maintained in all circumstances. Thank you for your attention. Hopefully, it's detailed how you can look at the 6 layers of security and how partnering with Boon Edam can assist you in the future. So thank you very much.
We have a very interesting launch for you now. And since you're the guys who drive the sector, Anurag has published an interesting report. I would now like to invite Shobhit Agarwal, MD and CEO, Anurag Capital Advisors, who in his 17-year stint at JLL created a robust platform focusing on client delivery and positioned JLL as India's market leader. He has a deep-rooted relationship with developers and capital providers, which has resulted into multi-billion-dollar deals. At Anurag Capital, Shobhit steers the direction through the various investment verticals to ensure that Anurag's core philosophy of technology-enabled, investor-centric decision-making continues to serve the best interests of its client. Could I also have Devi Shankar from Anurag on stage, please?
Yeah, thank you for giving us this podium to present our latest report. It only befits the occasion. We're literally coming out of the press. It's the latest report, most updated. I have my resident genius here, Devi. She's really authored this report along with the team. So we are very happy and glad as Anurag to present this report now to all of you. The hard copies will be on your desk. Devi, you want to say a few words?
So actually, I'll hand over the mic to my colleague Ankita because she has written the whole report and researched for it. So Ankita, if you can just give a quick brief of what our findings are, just so that everyone is aware of what the market is and how are we looking at it from an outlook standpoint.
Hi everyone. I'm Ankita. So you'll get the copies of the report to just summarize the report for you guys. So what we are seeing, the data center market supply stands at 1.4 gigawatt towards the end of 2024, and we are expected to reach somewhere around 2 gigawatts by the end of 2025. Mumbai and Chennai continue to remain the hotspot for the data centers. Mumbai has seen around 94% growth in supply from 2022 to 2024, and Chennai has seen 40% growth in the supply within the last 3 years, signifying the focus of data center operators in these 2 cities. Apart from that, few other trends that I would want to highlight. There have been significant investments from the hyperscalers on the self-built facilities. Hyderabad remains the focus area. Navi Mumbai, Pune, continuing the trend for the hyperscaler self-built facilities. Along with that, I would just take 2 minutes to give you an overview of the size of the data center industry. We are currently at $10 billion at the size of data center industry, and the revenues clocking upwards of $1.2 billion for 2022. Till 2024, we have seen rise in the EBITDA margins, but last 2 years, there's been a steady growth of around 40% in the EBITDA margins. You can read all of this. It's all summarized for you in the report, and you can take the copies of that from the desk outside, the registration desk kept outside.
We now come to the first panel discussion for the day, Building the Future, Innovations and Challenges in Data Center Development and Construction. I would like to call the panelists on stage. Our moderator for the panel is Devi Shankar, Executive Director, Industrial and Logistics Data Center, Anurag Capital, with 21 years experience in real estate advisory, private equity, and investment banking. Devi has transacted investment banking deals of rupees, dollars, dollars or rupees? Dollars, okay. 2.5 billion and advised 25 plus private equity firms having an aggregate deal size of over $1.75 billion. She's a CA, CFA and MBA honors from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. Devi, sit. Jollydeep Kaur, Senior Vice President Sales at NextGen Cloud Technologies, has over 25 years of experience in business development, strategic sales, P&L management, and team leadership. She has played a pivotal role in driving 30% growth in the data center business, optimizing operational costs, and expanding enterprise client portfolios. Her expertise lies in scaling businesses from scratch, having previously grown annual revenues from 0 to rupees 100 plus crore. Jay Burse. He joined PRASA in 2007 and is recognized for his innovative and pragmatic problem-solving approach on the global platform. Knowing the ins and outs of various mission-critical facilities, he has helped PRASA expand and reach great heights while inspiring and influencing a diverse workforce. Rohan Seth, Senior Vice President Co-location and DC Build, Yota Data Services. He has been instrumental in driving key projects, including large co-location facilities. He possesses experience in construction, commercial real estate, among other things. Rohan spearheads the data center build and co-location services with a focus on expanding Yota's pan-India footprint. Parag Kulkarni is an associate director in cost management at Linesight with over 25 years of cost management experience on complex projects across a wide range of sectors, including data centers, high-rise buildings, commercial development, and luxury hotels. Over to you, Devi.
Hi everyone. So again, another topic which I really like, data centers. There is a very interesting report and we did put in a lot of research and effort on it, so please do collect it from the registration desk. This topic particularly, development and construction, is something that is so important because unless you get that right, everything else will not fall in place. You know, whether it's operations, your customers coming and filling up spaces, it's so important to get that right, and that's where maximum planning needs to be done. Somebody had once told me that building a data center is like planning a wedding. It's expensive, it's stressful, and no matter how hard you work and how much you plan, something is going to go wrong. So it's very difficult, and I have a set of panelists who are experts in that area, except Jollydeep, because Jollydeep is one person who's closest to the customers, and therefore I requested her to come so that we get a more customer perspective as well. But with that, I will start my questions, and I'm quite excited because I'm not a technical person as well, but I'm really excited to hear what my panelists have to say. So let me start with you, Jay. So MEP, mechanical engineering, this is one of the core aspects of any data center. It's literally the lifeline, and it's also where maximum capital goes in. How have you seen the MEP evolving over times? Because we have also seen data centers really becoming a much more complex infrastructure than it was earlier. How do you see that evolved over time?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Devi, for inviting me. And good question to start off with. MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all of this plays a significant role in order to make sure the data center is up and running. Apart from the very fact that the building has to be constructed, but as we know across the globe, the data centers can also be put in, warehouses. That's what is preferred outside because the width of the land available there is much easier and better in terms of cost analysis than compared to what is there in India. We go for constructions, but regarding the MEP, there has been a significant change because of where the chips are changing. What happens, what do you require this mechanical, electrical and plumbing for is to give power to your servers and cool them. Since they're power guzzlers, they're consuming a lot of power, they're generating a lot of heat. The next thing you have to do is cool them. And earlier, these chips were of a typical, power consumption. It would be 200 watts a chip. You would have 2 chips on a server. So one server would be about half a kilowatt, and that's how things would be. But in the past, and I wouldn't say so many years, it's about past 700 to 1,000 days from now. Things have gone bizarre. You have panelists, who've been, Yota was one of the pioneers in buying some of the most advanced chips. And even then, there's a new chip that has come up from NVIDIA and all that. So all of this MEP work, coming to your question, is very driven by what the chip demands. And the chip demand is changing every quarter. There's a new launch of a particular chip, which is almost double the capacity of the earlier chip, and it's coming in the next quarter or 2 quarters down the line. So my understanding and what I feel in the near future, what is going to happen is, you cannot go with a copybook consulting approach saying that, okay, these are the number of cables and the pipes, and this is how I'll build the data center, and the whole data center will cater to this much capacity. You'll have to be extremely agile. You'll have to design and construct the workforce or the mechanical pipes, the plumbing, the electrical power consumption, the way you distribute the power as well, which you can change from a hall which caters to about 5 megawatts of power, which suddenly someone is saying, okay, real estate, fine, I need only that much, but I want that to cater to 10 megawatts. The same hall, And that's what is happening, and that's what we are doing. We're doing one of the projects in Bangalore, and you won't believe there are 6 sets of water pipes that are running under the floor. 6 sets. The floor height itself is 1.5 meters. The raised flooring height. 6 sets of water pipes hopping onto each other. One is carrying secondary fluid, which is glycol based. One is carrying warm water. One is carrying chilled water, and everything has redundancy of 1+1. So the mechanical side of it is genuinely getting very, very complex. Electrical needs to get very agile so that it can be fed to agile powers. One rack could be 50 kilowatt, one rack could be 5 kilowatt, and they might be sitting besides each other, and you would have to, cater to that. So agility and flexibility to cater to complex growth of power and cooling is what MEP will look like, and is already looking like now, and will look like in the near future. That's what my opinion is out of a design perspective.
Very interesting, Jay. Rohan, similar point of view from you as well. I mean, one, of course, Yota is expanding in a big way, not just, it started off being a data center company, but it's expanded quite a bit into cloud and GPUs. So similar point of view as what Jay said, we'd like to hear from you. And also, not just from, that perspective, from a perspective of servers, hardware, and that agility that is needed, but also from a DC build standpoint, right from land acquisition till the, commissioning. How has that changed? Because I remember in 2020, when I started working on DCs, the average DC size was about 5,000 to 10,000 square feet. Today, we are talking of 5 lakh to 6 lakh to even maybe 10 lakh square feet. So how has that whole process changed, and are there any innovations that have come about on the build and as well as the GPU side?
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, as, Jay rightly said, the way, there was a certain, you can say, a rate at which, the entire, from the non-IT side, the way the innovations and everything in cooling technology, the electrical side, the, the assets and everything, the data center technology, at a certain rate it was happening, and also on the server and the IT side. The last, from the advancement or, the day the AI stepped into the whole picture, last 500, 700 days, as he rightly said, the rate at which, one, the complexity has increased, the diversity and the way the challenges have increased, it has gone to, you can say, the next level, which, it is not just India, or it is not just, which we are encountering, it is all over the world. Because it is a new phenomenon, it is an entirely new thing for everyone. So in terms of, just to give you an example, like Yota, as we said, we were we took a lead in implementing GPUs in India. And the data center in which we, took this, 16,000 GPU chips, H100s, are as per the design for the first 4 years, our data center was originally planned for a 30 megawatt data center. The day we took the decision that now, okay, we'll start implementing those chips, day by day, the power requirement kept on increasing. Eventually, that data center, the same data center, as you said, the physical space is the same, but now the data center is a 52 megawatt, data center. So the main thing here is, as we all are discussing, is the flexibility. From the data center, standpoint of view, as you're saying, from real estate to, the space that you require for a data center, the sizing and everything is not the same anymore. We were discussing this around 5-6 years back also, that now the days that you say take up a single building, 3-story, 5-story, 7-story structure, you have a 50,000 to say a 2 lakh square feet structure, build in 5-10 megawatts, and try to cater whether enterprise or hyperscale, requirement. Those days are now gone. Even during the cloud, requirement days, or now with the AI, infrastructure and the AI requirements coming up, the main thing here is these, the customers you require, even, if you're doing on your own, like Yotta, if you're doing GPUs and AI workload on your own, or even if you are providing infrastructure as a service to, your customers, the main thing that, the customers look for is scalability. Day one, they might start with, few racks, but eventually, as say months pass by, or the overall market scenario gets clearer to them, eventually they will require space, they will require power, they will require network. So, as from a real estate point of view, from a construction point of view, the key is that while on, you don't want to put the capex upfront, you don't want to put in, because MEP, construction, everything are huge capex-driven businesses. You don't want to make a 100 megawatt, 200 megawatt setup right on day one. And there are technologies, even on the construction front, prefabricated, modular data centers, all these have evolved, they are there in the market. So the way that, while the challenges are there are solutions, there are, practices in the market. You start with a small setup, you start with a 5 megawatt, 10 megawatt setup, but eventually at the place that, you are, say, planning a data center, the scalability, first we were looking like, 1,000 days back, 3 years back, we were looking for a 50 to 100 megawatt, say, eventual size of the campus. Now, if you talk to global customers, they want a 500 megawatt to a 1 gigawatt kind of a capacity over the next 5 to 10 years. Till now, the AI workloads have not yet come to India. Still the workloads, the chips, the capping is there, or the NVIDIA chips of how much they can export out of US. But it is a matter of time. The day it comes, whether today, 1 year later, it is a matter of regulatory thing. But the day it comes, these 30, 50, 100 megawatt is not going to be, what we are discussing right now in the presentations. It is going to be a matter of, more than what we think today, because the AI workloads as it runs. So now, this 20, 30, 50 megawatt data centers that we use for cloud, for AI, the overall capacity and the overall what we are thinking is going to be much more. So the key is you start small, but the overall flexibility and the overall expansion, scalability in terms of power and in terms of fiber, the overall land and everything that you have for one particular location has to be much more. And that is the key to, when you are now planning say a data center campus or a data center park.
Got it. And so a related point to Parag, I mean, there's so much dynamism now in the data center industry. With AI coming in, the whole internal architecture is changing, the capacities are ramping up. Cost becomes a major concern over here. As a consultant, how do you advise your clients on cost management? Because it's so difficult to foresee what change will come in. So throughout that process of a DC build, how do you look at cost management in general?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a nice question to start with, of course. See, we normally, what we do to start when a cost manager comes into the picture, is basically cost the plan. That's the old way of doing costing. What we now need to start with, or we have started doing, is plan the cost. That will help the client eventually to understand where they are ending up eventually spending. Like Rohan mentioned, they start with 5 megawatt but end up doing 50 megawatt. If that kind of planning is available, you can advise the client based on what kind of cost will be there, what kind of procurement strategies you need to follow, what kind of design you need to have, what kind of timelines you are looking at. Based on all this, we will have the cost management, a better cost management for the data centers. Now, if you start advising client right on day one that you are going to have additional cost, that's not the way we should start with. There will be cost overrun in certain cases, but if you plan the entire the project, what it should be, what we are going to have eventually, everything will fall in place. So the design, the supply chain management, and the change management eventually, when you will have the construction started, all three are the key things wherein you will be controlling the cost. That's how we start advising our clients. Plan right at the first place. Though you can start with a smaller scale, small scale project, of course. But eventually, if your plan is to have a 50 megawatt data center and you start with 5 megawatt data center, you should have that budget available. We are there to advise all our clients that we can plan the cost instead of costing the plan. That's how I believe we can have a better cost management for the data centers.
Interesting. Plan the cost instead of costing the plan. The first time I've heard it. Jolly Deep, like I said in the start, you're closest to the customers. And all of this that we're talking of is actually driven by what the customer wants, right? In your conversations with a lot of the large enterprises, hyperscalers, how are you seeing the sentiment in terms of what are they looking at from a data center infrastructure perspective? I remember at one point, one of the hyperscalers had said, I want a 7 feet height. Now, where do you get a 7 feet height, 7 meter height in India, right? Because everything was constructed to a 5.5 to 6. So these keep on changing all the time. Like, what are you seeing from your customers in terms of their requirement? And does that give you a sense of what are they looking at from overall from an AI standpoint, computing standpoint in India?
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you, Devi, for calling me closer to the customer person, because I think that's the most coveted job you can get. When you get on ground, roll up your sleeves, and sell what these guys are building, right? And what we bring is a value not only for the company, we're bringing in revenue, but we're also bringing in value to the customer side. So I think from all perspectives, when we started at NextGen, our vision was that when we create data centers, it should revolve around a server. So that's how we started thinking about customers. You're like, what does the customer want? If you look at from customer's perspective, he's hosting applications. He's not hosting power. He's not hosting space. He's not hosting electrical cables or heights or whatever you're talking about. He's hosting his applications. He's serving his end user demands. So from that perspective, he wants to have a strategic partnership who will be able to build that space for him, deploy those applications, scale those applications, and secure that application. So looking at these four keywords, what have you built for the customer? So customer looks at whether this space that I'm going to go to, whether they have the facility which caters to securing the facility for the applications, whether it has the flexibility to give me multiple number of options. He doesn't want to be stuck into a rigid environment. He wants flexibility to choose whether it is a public cloud or a private cloud, or there are enterprise workloads. One more thing we deeply need to understand is, while we are talking about a lot of advancement in workloads, talking about applications which are going towards AI and the other technologies, our customers still hold a lot of traditional workloads. They've not yet matured all their applications to come onto the modernized workload environment. So how is the partner geared up to understand that environment, that hybrid environment where he wants something still on traditional workload architecture, something on modernized workload architecture, and the partner is also able to give him futurescape into the AI workloads. So these are very, very important points. So performance drives customers' decisions, compliance, whether you're able to understand his complex compliance environment. Because if you look at industries like government or finance or healthcare, they're very deeply regulated. How far have you, the understanding about the regulatory compliances, how have you met them with what you're building for them? That is very important. And after all of this, cost efficiency, of course. Whether you will be able to, he'll be able to perceive the value for every rupee that he spends for you. So I think these are the few critical indicators of what customer wants to buy when he's making a decision.
So, Jay, taking that forward, it's like Jollydeep said, it's the customer is primarily driven by his business, and business is getting, is changing by the second today. And you also spoke of agility. How do you go about getting that agility when you can't even foresee what change is coming? How do you do that in your projects?
Well, it's hard, and like she said, it's very simple. For the customer, he doesn't care whether height is 7 meters, 5 meters, whatever. He knows his machines need to keep up and running so that he can run his show. How you are keeping them, where they are keeping them is absolutely immaterial to a certain extent. Of course, just to keep a check on where his money is being spent, he'll go and ask someone from his team to check, okay, look at the facility, whether it's certified, whether it has all the redundancies, blah, 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 and all of that. But eventually, he's not concerned. It should keep on. Light should be on 24/7. And yes, the requirements are changing. Some customers may have an old school requirement, which is okay to go with 4 kilowatts, 5 kilowatts a rack, and everything is hunky-dory working fine. As a matter of fact, a major chunk of the financial fintech world still resides on a 4 or a 5 kilowatt per rack data center setup. They don't need a major chunk of the stock market. We're doing a project for, I am sure you must be knowing, NSE is building, getting converted into a complete data center, and we are building all their data centers inside. Right now, as we speak, I just came from the site before I reached here, and I'll be going back there after that. And they expect us to complete the project in 75 days. 3.5 megawatts of IT load, 5.6 megawatts of total power consumption from an RMU to the rack PDU, from a chiller to every consumer, including PAHU units and everything. Civil, mechanical, electrical, monitoring, right from installing CCTV cameras to monitoring each branch power, branch circuit monitoring system. Everything in 75 days is what they're expecting. And we, out of the pressure of revenue target, we go and say, okay, sir, le lete hain, So, and then now we are sitting to find ways to 4 din ka aur aade sukta hai kya? So that is what is happening, and it will, the demand of the customer is to happen in no time. Even we as human beings don't like to spend or waste time. The earlier the better, the faster the better, right? So in such situations, what we have started doing is doing a lot of prefabrication or pre-configuration of certain systems, right? For example, it's piping. So we would like to have, we do have a facility in Pune where we prefabricate everything in our controlled environment, put it on a truck, come here and only assemble, right? That's one way of doing it. In mechanical, there are in fact multiple ways. In Bangalore, we're doing a project where all the piping is done using grooved couplings. You don't have to weld them because welding is a tedious task. You have to weld everything from roundabout, then you have to check pressure. Grooved couplings, there are Tyco, Victolic, there are a few names which you may know in the construction world. They're regularly used in the fire hydrant thing, where you connect on your building. So those are the ways we can do on the mechanical front. Electrical still remains pretty much a series task thing. You bring in this first, then you lay that and proceed. What if and like, if you could plan well, right? And if you keep some prefabricated, for example, we have prefabricated modular power rooms. wherein we don't consume the real estate at all. We put it in a 40 feet or a 20 feet container, put the UPS, the panels and everything and all connections inside it. So you just put in a raw power from outside, take UPS power from the other side and connect it to your. So these are the ways where you could, squeeze in your time period to implement, make it more agile for the customer and ship it out. Otherwise, the same work that we do in a 20 feet container would take somewhere about 3 to 4 weeks, which we can wrap it up in less than 2 weeks. So you're bringing that time period to half if you plan it well, Obviously, if you need to have the components from the OEMs also, but then you can squeeze what you can squeeze. What you can't, you can't. So that's how we are prefabrication, modular approach, not going the copybook style of building. In fact, what I believe in the near future, when you're going to need more and more bigger, like Rohan said, 500 megawatts or a gigawatt of a campus for one customer alone, what you should do is try and reduce the amount of civil work that you can, as less as possible. It improves your cost. It reduces cost. It improves your whole benefit analysis. It also, gives you the agility whether he wants it today or later. Because otherwise, if you put in a slab and if slab is taking care of 500 megawatts, the cost is sunk on day one. Why? You make as minimum as possible and try and go with a modular approach. Bring in these cabinets or these containers and, put them around the building. Generators, do you see generators being put inside the building? No. You don't. That's just not the norm of doing things because somebody said it can be put outside. If we start realizing there are much more stuff beyond generators also that you can put outside, that's where the speed at which you can execute and the speed at which you can go live can improve significantly.
That's actually quite the opposite of what is being done, right? Because today we have the buildings coming up, a whole building comes up, and then you start the MEP of that. Rohan?
As Jai mentioned, we are saying that we are doing the opposite of what it is supposed to, traditionally what it is, logic says what we are supposed to do. There is a, basic reason for that. See, in US or, you say in Europe where, the data centers basically are not meant to be in the middle of the city. If you go, where the traditional data center hubs are, they are all like in the middle of the desert, 200, 500 kilometers from. No data center will be in New York or say a Washington or, in San Francisco. They will all be within say 200 kilometers away from the main city. There, the basic reason what we are saying, all these things, generators you can keep outside rather than building a 7-story, 10-story kind of a structure. Just go in a modular way, just keep on like a farming kind of a thing, just make warehouses, ground floors kind of structures, as in how a customer requirement comes in. Just, 5 megawatt kind of a modular, just copy paste and within 3 months, 6 months, as long as the lead items of say a chiller or a, generator and everything, the MEP equipments or everything comes on, your server hall is ready. But it is possible in those countries in say a US or a Europe because of the power and the fiber feasibility in say a 200 kilometer remote location which is not in the middle of the city. Today if you leave Mumbai and you go like 25 kilometers to a Dombivli or a Karjat, there like a Friday, 1 hour, for 1 hour the power goes, in that location. So when, say, traditionally from 2000s, the data center industry started, when the hyperscalers, say, came here in 2013, 14, when that old situation started, data centers, they were present, say, in a location like Chandivali or in a location on the Thane Belapur road or in Chennai, in Sirisuri, because at least the first thing, the, fundamental thing is stable power. And if the cable landing station, as we all discuss in the report also, that if the cables, is landing in a Warsaw or in, Prabhadevi, at least the fiber cuts will not be there, at least in a 5-10 kilometer range. Forget, 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, somewhere, say, in a Nagpur or somewhere in the middle of, in Maharashtra or a place like Rajasthan or a Gujarat or something. So because we started in that way, people have already built their zones over here. People have already, the cloud is being set up. Now to expect, say, a hyperscaler or a data center company to, set up a data center somewhere in Chhattisgarh or, state governments, we are in continuous touch with them. Why don't you build a state? We'll give you subsidies and everything. Set up a data center in Rajasthan. Set up a data center in Madhya Pradesh. Subsidies are available. Power is available. Renewables are available. But who will come to Rajasthan? They are already getting the, Mumbai and Chennai and Bangalore and all these places are serving them. And if you want to, say, set up a data center in Rajasthan, as we are saying, just take 500 acres of land, build in a modular way, don't go vertical, keep generators outside. Then basically thing is that the fiber, gigs and gigs of, bandwidth, fiber has to be present at that location somewhere in Rajasthan in the middle of the desert, which we don't have, say, 10, 15 kilometers outside Mumbai or Delhi also. So that back-end network infrastructure of power distribution and fiber, say, it will take time, but 5 years, 10 years down the line, when Mumbai and Chennai and Delhi and all these places are saturated, ultimately as the requirement grows, data centers will have to move out of the city to all these locations. There is no other option. But right now, the infrastructure itself, the main two things, power and fiber, it is not available in, say, in the peripheral regions outside the main cities. That's why data centers are being constructed over here. And in Mumbai itself, like a location where the land itself is so costly, there you cannot afford to, like in a 5 acre of land, I cannot afford to go only ground floor, where my, then the real estate cost itself I will not be recover if I don't make a 7-story, 10-stories, building. So that is the dilemma where all the, data center operators, you can say, are stuck. That if you buy, say, 100 crore, 200 crore land, and if you make just 1-story structure, then what is the realization that you are going to get out of that?
But a question anyone can answer. I mean, we are talking of scalability. Start at, say, a 30, 40 megawatt and be ready for a 500 megawatt. But if we have to be ready, how do we be ready in a city like Bombay or Chennai or Bangalore? Hyderabad, okay, to some extent we have seen that shift happening because of Amazon and Microsoft. But if you have to be ready for that, like, shouldn't that start from today? And you, Rohan, you are one of the pioneers because you started something in Panvel when the whole world was sitting in Navi Mumbai. So how do we start becoming ready for that?
So I think people have now, even if you see the self-build, campuses or self-build land which the hyperscalers are, taking, or the service providers, which recently, whatever land acquisitions and the data center projects that people have started, they have at least been on the peripheral regions of these, cities that we mentioned. Instead of taking, prime land for one single building in the middle of the city, which will give you immediate business for a small capacity, which the customer might require, say, today. But overall, if you are looking for the next 10-year horizon, 15-year horizon, where the eventual, this AI load and, the cloud load, what we are talking about that is what your target is, then at least you move towards the periphery where at least the 40, 50 acre kind of a land is what you can get. Because that land, as you rightly said, you are not going to get in Andheri or a BKC or that kind of a thing. You are going to get it in a Panvel or a, Dombivli kind of an area. So that is, at least on the periphery, you start with like these main cities like a Mumbai or a Chennai or a Hyderabad. You start in these locations. You get, a big parcel of land on the peripheral regions. And then when you start, it is not just being modular in terms of your construction. From a liquid cooling perspective, from the cooling, as he mentioned, from the cooling, the way you design that initial when you start, right now, should be flexibility, as Jolly also said, that your customers today, they are still on traditional workloads. But in future, when you plan for 6 pipes coming in, at least the space that you keep inside your building, the ducts that you leave, the space that you leave for all the plumbing to come in, for your, bus ducts and the electrical systems, the substation that you plan, eventually for 500 megawatt of load, you need out of that 50 acres, around 5 acres of land, you need to, that okay, for next 5 years, nothing will happen over there. It will just be a play field kind of a thing. But 5 acres, no construction will happen, because eventually you will have to get around, say 500 megawatt to 1 gigawatt of power over there. So that planning, the day one, while you start small, but in terms of the power, structure, reliability, then the green power initiatives that we are talking about. Today, from data centers perspective, like the grid power is not even, more than 1% or 2% in India. But when we are talking about this 500,000 next 5, years, 10 years, the moment it crosses a certain percentage, then, and all these foreign companies, MNCs, they have a global mandate for, say, in the next 5 years to turn green. So even if you are giving the physical infrastructure for a 500 megawatt campus, until and unless your power is green, nobody is going to contract with you. So these ESG compliances, what percentage of your power is green, whether you have planned for that, this from a, you can say flexibility in terms of that today you might not be requiring, say, a liquid cooling kind of a thing, but whether your facility, if tomorrow a customer comes and he wants a setup, whether you have the design, you can say adherence to it, these are the, you can say, the key points that you should keep in mind.
Again, similar question. A question on a similar point. Now we talk of these, requirement to scale and having these facilities to have, to provide larger capacities to customers when they actually need it, especially with AI coming in. And this is the question to both Jolly and Parag. There's this whole concept of a data center park, which has been proposed by the government in the data center policy, which is still draft. It's not been implemented. Do you think that something like that, a concept like that, will bring in a lot more efficiencies from a cost perspective? And will customers prefer being in a data center park where probably their competitors are also in the same, in the same park or just next to them probably? So more from a data center park perspective, I would like to have your cost management perspective and customer perspective. Parag, you can go first.
So from cost management perspective, the kind of data center parks or whatever we are talking about might help in having a better supply chain management. We might have the better infrastructure available. It may reduce the cost, but it's for the future. As we speak, all the data centers you can see as scattered locations. But for the data center park, I believe there will be some cost reduction, not necessarily a significant one, but still we will have a better infrastructure available, we'll have a better supply chain management, we will have better labor strengths available. All these coming into picture, we might have a cost reduction happening. Having said that, again, like I'll go back to what I said earlier, plan the cost. Wherever you are building it, you need to plan the cost. You need to have a better plan. You need to have the futuristic designs in place. You can cost it right on day one to have a better cost efficiency once you start building it. So apart from that, you plan it, your supply chain management. Let's say your current requirement is 5 megawatt, but going forward, you are having something for 50 megawatts. You plan your entire supply chain management accordingly on day one. Once you start construction, it should not happen that the material is available, your site is not ready, then your cost efficiency goes for a toss. If you are ready with your plan, if you are executing according to your plan, you will have a better cost management available on site.
Jolly?
Yeah. I have a little controversial view here. What I feel is that customers need to be educated. They really do not know what they want. If you look at any server, the play track specification, it says you can host that server to about 38 degrees also. But if you look at the traditional mindsets that the customers carry, they still will mandate you to run the data centers at 20 plus or minus 2 degrees. Now, these are the points that help you bring in efficiency in terms of how you can, make that same, investments that you've made to build your capacities for customers to host more. So that's one point of view. The other thing that we have to see is that what Rohan just mentioned, that hyperscalers are building large facilities within the city. Now to this, in my view, there is another angle. I don't know if you guys have heard about the US Cloud Act. Most of these companies which, emerge out of the US have a mandate by the US government to store or give back data whenever they require. This was, I think, this stemmed from the Snowden incident. So from that point of view, I think they need to be in the heart of the city because that's where the international cables are landing. But if you look at us as Indians, as nationals who run their enterprises' workloads, and specifically the organizations or the end consumers are within the country, we do not require too much of an internet. The interconnect, the internet exchanges itself can do a whole lot of job for us to run the businesses. So there's a whole lot of education or a mindset change that we need to do for these customers, for both of us. I mean, for us as enterprises to build solutions which are suitable to them. We're able to scale from the same premises that we have. And the other is also protecting our own data rights, right? So like now we have a lot of emphasis on the DPDP, the IT Act, how we are going to protect the sovereignty of our data. And sovereignty is just not about data. It's also about how technologically you are able to support the customer's workloads, how able teams you have who are setting up the support systems for your customers, what are the these processes of support that you've put in place. So operationally, how efficient you are, how sufficient you are to be able to support the customer workloads. So from that point of view, instead of like just running into the rat race of adding more power, adding more advancements, I think what we need to understand is how, what is it that our customers are running? How is it that we can change their mindsets? How is it that we can protect our own country's data at a national interest level? And you want to add?
Yeah, just wanted to add on the cost management perspective here. Though we are saying we'll be having data center parks, we might have a better cost management, cost-effective solutions and all that. Having said this, unless and until we are having a better infrastructure available, the cost is not going to get reduced. Like Rohan mentioned, if we are not having electricity available, we are not having fiber connection available nearby the data center park, the cost is not going to reduce. So to start with, to have a better cost management, of course, the government is coming up with multiple policies. At the same time, they need to be ready with this infrastructure to have a better cost management as well.
And Jolly, just for the sake of our audience, where are customers looking to host their applications? Or do they have, where as in which cities, in India? Or do they have like preferences that, okay, these kind of applications I will host here and the rest of the applications I'm hosting, say, in a different city, or my backup can be in this city, but my main primary has to be in one city. Just give a sense to the audience as to which cities are being really preferred by customers.
So traditionally, customers wanted their own servers, their data very close to them. I think there was a typical CIO mindset that I should be in control of what I'm operating, what services I'm giving to my organization. But slowly that mindset has changed and they've gone in for a colo space or a hosted space or on a cloud solution. But from operation point of view, they still prefer that where the skills are available to support these workloads, that's the place that they would want to be. So I think typically if you look at it, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, where the technical acumen is dense, these are the places where customers are preferring. The other aspect to it is, I think what drives their decision is that if they're hosting their DC in one location, at least what they are putting the workloads for disaster recovery or business continuity is in a different seismic zone. These are the drivers that decide their decisions. Today, an interesting concept which is emerged is that there are certain applications which require to be closer to their end consumers. So the edge computing came into picture. So these are different drivers of how customer decides where their workloads should be. But typically, if you look at the environment today, they're not boxed into a single rigid infrastructure environment. They want the critical workloads to be in a certain enterprise-grade environment. They're okay with non-mission critical applications to go on cloud. There are certain, I told you, like certain can go on edge. So all these aspects of how they want to fuel their business demands, how they want to serve their end customers well, where they're able to give seamless experience to their customers, these are the business drivers for taking these decisions.
So, I'll give a very simple concept on the edge compute part. And fundamentally, anything that you need a deeper penetration of, any kind of service, any kind of technology or anything that you want a deeper penetration of, the most cost-effective approach has been a hub and spoke model. Correct? You take anything, take a courier service, take a fuel distribution service, take whatever service you want. And the most cost-effective model is an hub and spoke model. You create a hub and then you have spokes and then you create sub-hubs and sub-spokes and stuff like that. Data, and like how Rohan was pointing out, that the problem is there's no cable that has come out there. And let's say you go to the Tatas or the Airtels or the Reliances and say, okay, get me, backhauls there of gigs and gigs of this thing. The cost is too high, right? So one is the proximity of the enterprise customer of where my data center is. Can I go in 30 minutes or 20 minutes and reach out and touch my machines because those are mine sitting out of someone else's premises? So that's one. Second, as Rohan said, whether the connectivity is there and the power is available, correct? However, in my personal opinion, near future and an upcoming future, you will have a lot moving into the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. For the sole reason that now the land is becoming very, very costly in a city like Mumbai. Or it's becoming, and come what may, whatever you do, eventually a customer wants his service to be cheaper. Plain and simple. You do whatever technology, what you want to do, usko sasta chahiye maal. As simple as that. Huh? Performance guarantee, of course. No performance, so you'll go and switch into somewhere else. But maal sasta. That's the core ideology everyone wants, correct? It's just going to make a lot of sense to go away from the core cities, figure out ways to reduce the cost. Land costs away from the city are much, much lower, correct? Probably power and data will be one. And like you said, the data center parks can help this thing work out very well. I don't know how many of you know something called as district cooling. There's a whole cooling infrastructure that is there for a whole data center park, sitting out of one corner of the whole land parcel. Let's say it's a 50-acre land parcel and you have 20 data center providers in that land parcel, right? There's one district cooling hub sitting outside which is supplying water to all the buildings, right? So these are the ways where you can reduce the cost, and that data center park could now sit in Rajasthan or wherever, and now you have the telecom and the power companies compelled to come and support it. Why? Because there's 50 acres, there's 200 megawatts, and you're bound to be there. And in a diverse country like India, it's really hard to stay only in the 6 or 7 cities that we have, as we call as the, churners of economy. Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Kolkata, stuff like that, Noida. So, so those cities and beyond, you will have to think to really make this an industry. Otherwise, like we said yesterday, there was an event at CIN that they were saying, we are still far away from, in the US, in the Western countries, the power consumption percentage of data centers is about 4 or 5% of the total power generated in the country, right? In a country which is much less populated than India. Data ka source is only one, population. There's literally no other source that can generate data, right? However you circle it, it will be generated from a human being, right? And those countries are far lesser populated, 1/3 or 1/10 the population of our country, but their power percentage is at 5%. we are still under 2. So most certainly there will be immense investment in the data center infrastructure, because that's what is going to be the need. And sovereignty of data, the green solutions that you are going to bring in, how are you powering it up, all of that, and it has to move out of the likes of Mumbai and Chennai. It will have to. You'll have to play in better cables. You will have to make it robust and move it out. And if you're doing modular, well, I did not mean modular with respect to only horizontal expansion. You can have modularity in vertical expansions also. It's just that how can you make it cheaper? That is all. If you invest day one, it's bound to happen that you want to put your ticket size so that you can recoup your investment. It's just natural. You're not going to put in the money and just, okay, I'll still give it at a cheaper cost and lose money on my side. You're going to figure out a way to recoup that, correct? And that way, it's better you invest less and recoup better and then grow as the whole industry moves. It's a needle mover rather than a business house. It's a needle mover of the whole country, the whole economy, or the whole industry.
If the government really works on it. Yeah. Rohan, my second last question. Right now, like we spoke, it's the key cities, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Pune, Hyderabad, Noida, very small extent Kolkata. What are the on-ground challenges when you're building a data center in terms of labor, government permissions, getting land, skills? She spoke of skills more from an operational standpoint, but even labor, right? Skilled labor, skilled, unskilled labor. These are all like real issues which can absolutely delay your go-to-market. So which are the cities which are easy? What are the challenges in different cities? I mean, you have data centers in most of these cities. So what are the challenges that we face on ground?
See, from the compliances or land acquisition and everything, data center for the earlier part, 50% of the life cycle, it's similar to a real estate, a residential or a commercial kind of a project. So land acquisition to licensing to the government officials and interactions with them and getting all the permissions. So those challenges which are say there in the real estate space, those challenges remain the same. In terms of data center, the way the government, the state governments, the central governments, MITI and all those bodies, they have realizing the potential that this industry now presents the whole opportunity, and that as the potential that it has for the entire country. The data center norms have come in, data center policies have come in on a state level. They are trying to implement it on a national level, single window clearance. So the situation is, you can say, getting better by the day. But still, the timeline and everything, you have to, factor that in. Say if tomorrow there is a customer who wants a facility ready in an X amount of time. So these, minimum environmental clearances and your fire permissions and everything when you plan a new facility. So all those licensing and everything is there. In terms of labor, while the construction and everything, you can say typical of a normal real estate, those contractors. The good part is that in the last 10 years, there has been so much data center development. So earlier, I remember, say 10 years back, when you, even to a normal, contractor, when you went for a data center construction, it seemed a little bit alien to them. That, we make, say, a commercial building or a residential building, we have laborers for that. But here, the loading is different, or the, your floor to floor height, or some like 10%, you can say the technical specifications are different. But even esteemed contractors and everything, they would take a little bit of time to get used to it or participate in your bids and everything. But now everybody, all good contractors have done enough work in the last, because so many players have come in, so many capacities have been constructed. So you don't find any, difficulties. People know how to build. People know data centers is no, different anything than say a normal commercial building. So from a construction point of view, there are no major challenges or hurdles, you can say. The main challenge lies in the MEP, because say a normal commercial residential building, the MEP skill set, say of a contractor or a laborer is, you can say what goes in the data center is, you can say 10 times, 50 times more the kind of architecture that is required, the kind of services, the entire architecture, you can say, is more, 10 times more complex than a normal office, the firefighting, the cooling mechanism, the electrical, the physical security. So therein, more and more contractors, while there is a limited pool today in each of these, the mechanical contractors or the, people who are doing the electrical work. And the other major, you can say, the challenge is that while we are talking about, make in India and all these things, major equipments, the lead times and all these equipments, the major data center equipments, you can say 90% of that are still not manufactured in India. So while even if, there is so much we talk about, the growth, and there is so much opportunity, there is so much, you can say, potential in the data center market, but in the last 15, 20 years, even today you see major chillers, major generators, UPSs, batteries, apart from one or two Indian companies, nobody has set up a big plant, or nobody has set up that if you want chillers, you can say an Indian manufacturer who meets the hyperscaler or the global customer requirements, technical specifications. The opportunity is immense. But still you have to rely on, say, a European provider or a, other Southeast Asian provider to give you all this equipment, and the lead times and everything are like more than 6 months and 4 months and 8 months. So therein where the lead times are more, and the contracted, you can say the workforce, the kind of ability that you require, those educated, laborers and workforce in the MEP field, and those are quite limited in the country. So planning in, that field, that is the main, you can say, constraint, or it becomes a limited resource in that level.
I think Francis can address that in the next panel. It's the perfect segue for you to take that up. So my last question before we open it up to the audience question, and this is a question for all four of you. India's journey in data centers is the last 5 years. Maybe 2018 it started probably, but the real boom is from 2020. Exponential hockey stick growth. If you have to give a rating out of 10 to the quality of infrastructure in India as compared to what the customers are used to in more developed countries like US and Europe, how much will you rate India as?
I think if you look at enterprise workloads, what I believe is that while we've created great capacities for co-location facilities, there is close to about 50 to 60% of workloads that customers still host in their own premises. So if we count those data center spaces, where one area in the office is a server room, which you even can't call a server room, I think the rating drops down drastically to about 4.5 or 5.
That question could be divided into two parts. In one is the quality of the data center as a design, whether we are at par at what the global standards are. I believe we are pretty much, because most of the data centers, Utah's are tier 4 certified, most of the data centers get certified. So at that level, I don't see much of a gap. Probably everyone globally is also at around 8. So we are also at around 8. But the true inside workmanship that is going, which goes under the floor, which goes in the shaft, which is on the terrace, which is not directly visible to a particular customer, whether we have that figured out in terms of high quality stuff, and it's not the matter that there's no willingness to do high quality work. Most of the times, like, it becomes very hard. You are given less time. Fatafat karo. Then the laborer who actually knows a better way of doing that stuff, because he's been asked to do the 60-minute job into 10 minutes, now he's taken a shortcut approach and he's finished it off in 10 minutes because Malik ne bola 10 minutes mein karna hai to karna hai. That's how. So that is where I think the focus of a quality assurance or quality check should be, because that will directly define the longevity of your infrastructure, whether it will last for so many years, whether it will, that's where the quality I still feel is around 5.5 or 6. on the contrary to the more developed countries, because there they give time.
And budgets?
Money, I don't think money anyone should give. पैसा कम ही देना चाहिए साहब. We should not pay more. सब कुछ सस्ता होना चाहिए लाइफ में. I am a very strong believer of that. कुछ भी महंगा नहीं होना चाहिए. There's no use.
No, but then you look at how the negotiations happen in the...
That's okay. No one is forcing you to take the order. No, नहीं जमता है मत लो is what you can. No one is forcing you to take that. My point is, everything that has been an extremely large corporation, you pick a Coca-Cola to a Reliance Jio to anything, has only become large by dropping the price. Coca-Cola made his drink cheaper than water. It was world's largest organization for a considerable amount of time. Reliance became the last entrant in the telecom space, became the most dominant force by dropping the price. Price तो कम ही होना चाहिए बस. There's no doubt about it. कीमत ही कम ही होनी चाहिए. And yet you should be able to deliver quality. Clear. I personally am a very strong believer that you need to be paid only how much it deserves. Bas.
I think Reliance's strategy is not to drop the price. It is first to get you used to a free thing and then charge you for it. Yeah?
No, having said that, when we talk about cost, like he said, cost to kam hi hona chahiye. That's the mantra everywhere. Wherever you go, that's the mantra. But unfortunately, if you seek quality, you need to pay for it. It's not, quality does not come cheap. It will never come cheap. So unless and until you pay for the quality, you will not get the quality. The current, like you mentioned about at what scale we can give marks to Indian infrastructure, and like Jay mentioned, design, we are almost at par. I don't see any challenges over there. The quality of labors is there. It's not that we are not capable enough, but again, it comes back to whether we are willing to pay that extra penny to that particular labor to get the required quality. That's where we are slightly lagging is what I'll feel. So out of 10, I can say 6.5 for the design infrastructure, and rest of the things is around 4.5 to 5.
Like if you look at the skill from India is what goes abroad, right? I mean, there are workers who are here who are building those world-class facilities abroad. So I'm sure skills are never a challenge. It's more about what the customer is willing to pay and how much time he's willing to give you. That's what will derive quality for him.
So I have a, totally different view on this. In the last 2 years, I must have visited, data centers across the US, across Europe, and, Southeast Asian countries. I believe in terms of if you, ask me to rate Indian data centers, I think out of 10, our data centers are 15, compared to the data centers that they have in...
yours, bro.
Huh?
I think that'll be yours, not
No,
general.
yours. I'm talking about general Indian data centers, not about, any particular, you can say, service provider or anything. If you generally look at the overall, I'm not just talking about the architecture or the, it is about the MEP and entire thing. If you look at the, data centers in US or Europe or, other parts of the world and India, I think the main disconnect is about the definition of data center for Indian customers. And the other thing is the basic, what we discussed just a while back about the two backbones, power and fiber. See, why here we have to go for all this different kind of, N plus N and this and that, and the cost comes up, is because when the data centers over here started, the basic, the lifeline, the power which has to come from the grid, that basic connection was not, that reliability is not there. The power, the fiber cuts. That if the road infrastructure is digging, like every day in Mumbai, like 500 roads are dug up and your fiber is getting cut. That is why this, fiber from 4 directions and, all these, 20, you can say, pipes of fiber from all these things. That is why the customers are also hesitant and they ask the service providers that mujhe itana sara redundancy chahiye. You make this so much, your data center has to cater to so much things. If you go to a US, even where all these hyperscalers are located, their design parameters are not so stringent. They know that if a power is coming from the main grid, once in a year, okay, for some maintenance purpose, it will go down. Otherwise, the power is going to be there 24/7. So if a generator is there, if a backup is there, even the fuel that is required on site will just be for 12 hours. They will not ask for anything more because the grid reliability, if they see the report over the last 50 years, and never in the history for the last 50 years has the grid gone down for more than, half an hour during the entire year. So that is the basic infra is there. And the customers are also educated that this is not a hotel. They don't have to stay here overnight. They don't need a fancy place. It is just for a data storage, even if it is 200 kilometers away, even if, the walls are not painted or wallpaper, the reception is not fancy, there are no chandeliers on the top of that. Ultimately, if I am getting my server or my data is running 24/7, uninterrupted, that is the use of the data center, and I am getting it at a competitive price. Here, we have, taken it to a next level and we have marketed it in a different way. That, come to my data center, see it differently, be in the middle of the city, how does my, data center look and what experience does it give? Data center is not for that. It is for, as Jolly also mentioned, for your server to run 24/7, even if it is in the middle of the desert. There, the people have accepted it, and that is how the industry norm is. Here, in order to, say, score points over each other as competitors, as we do for a commercial real estate, whether the building is in BKC or the building is in, say, Lower Parel, the data centers have also become like that we want to show off our design. We want to show off our redundancies and everything. As long as the server is running 24/7, there is no other actual requirement that you need to put into the data centers. So we are over-designing, we are overspending in the data centers, which is the US companies or the European companies are not doing. Their data centers, if you compare to our data centers, they are much behind even today, the new data centers that are coming up.
So I'm glad we ended on a 15/10 optimistic note. So with that, we'll open up for questions from the audience.
Hi, my name is Samir Bansali from Asan Building System. First of all, thanks to all the panelists. Fantastic knowledge you guys have give it to us. I have a question. Did ever a data center in India ever thought about using sustainable green, negative carbon footprint, circular economy with the fire rating, insulated panels, and it's made out of natural cellulose and fibers? They thought about it?
So you'll hear a lot about that in the next panel which Jayashree is moderating, because sustainability is part of that. But still, I mean, I'm happy for the panelists here to speak.
Just for me to, because
you want to
just
point it to someone.
Have they ever thought about using?
You want to point it to someone specific?
Anyone can give me an answer.
There is a demand of thinking of a circular, economy in terms of how green and sustainable you can be.
Right.
Especially suddenly half an acre of land is consuming 100 megawatts of power coming from a thermal power plant, for all you know, because that's what is dominant power source in India. So suddenly the finger pointing is there for a data center industry that please start with coloring yourself green as soon as possible. Okay. But, and there is a circular economy angle to it. However, the specific question that you asked about cellulose panels, insulated panels, is not something that we have heard of. We haven't bumped into that as a requirement. But if you have some product which will pronounce or divert the finger to becoming greener, you should really.
By the way, India is the first country to manufacture that, and we own the patent here in India.
Great, you should push it. I mean, it's not come across.
Yes, we have. I just moved from Los Angeles about 4 years back, and just wanted to, see.
I think sustainability today for India is mostly at a CSR initiative level only. The most that we do is that we exchange our consumed power units with what we buy from green power, and that I think is the only circle available right now.
It's basically just for sake of it, we are having that CSR activities like, okay, we are consuming so much of power, we need to give back something.
Giving all the qualities of what it requires. 2 hours fire rating, insulated, like,
Again, sir, अगर सस्ता होगा पक्का बिकेगा. No doubt. No doubt.
It has to
because
be.
the first thing that is coming, like she said, is boss, first get us green power. So that's where the main greener aspect is getting pushed first. Get renewable sources of energy fed to your data center. If
Even-
someone has managed to do that, that's a tick.
Even in terms of materials, as you are saying, there are for, green building certifications and everything, there is a
Yes,
requirement.
indeed,
So
yeah.
people are looking at it.
Yeah.
If any, specific product, as you are mentioning, you have, let us discuss. We can have a look at it. Sure.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. IGBC, yes,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
LEED is
Green
actually
building certifications and everything.
LEED certified, actually international for. IGBC also works for India, yeah.
So we do get approached by a lot of people who want to get introduced to data center operators for circular economy related aspects, but that's more on the water and waste management side. But it's still not implemented. Like Jolly said, at the most it's on the power side as of now. Water and waste management, I think, will be next, but more advanced stuff really needs to come.
Thank you, Devi. Can we have, we have a small memento for you. Can I have Captain Edwin Saldana and Indrajit Saudi on stage? We now come to the second panel discussion for the day. I would like to invite on stage Jagat Pandya, Head HSC Sterling and Wilson Data Centers, who's an accomplished electrical engineer and enhanced his expertise with a post-diploma in industrial safety and an environmental management system certification from Gujarat. He is also certified in NIBOSH International General Certificate alongside ISO Integrated Auditor Certification for ISO 14001. Ian Goldsmith, Global Head of Sales, Royal Boon International BV, joined Boon in 1993 and has worked in the architectural and consultancy, security consultant space. Now working for his parent company as Global Head of Sales based in Netherlands. He leads the global sales team. Pramod Deshmukh, Country Head for Hyperscale Data Center, Design and Implementation, Ramboll Engineering India, has been in the IT, data center and cloud industry since past 30 years. Ramboll India has been the designer of Mumbai's Atal Setu 28-kilometer sea link, being the primary structural designer for the entire bridge. Chris Thomas, Associate Project Architect, leading the business of critical facilities at Gensler, worked on data centers within the APME region and especially in India. Kunjumon Francis is the head of data center solutions and services in Siemens India. With an experience more than 35 years, which includes India and international exposures, Mr. Francis is exceptionally adept at formulating strategies, managing P&L and managing key accounts. So our topic for the day is the future of data centers, innovation, security, and design sustainability. That includes a whole lot of things, So we are going to talk basically about sustainability, security, and innovation. Pramod, in terms of sustainability, what are some of the ways data centers can adopt to curtail their energy costs?
What can a data center? First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here today and giving Ramboll a opportunity to present and talk. So, how data center can curtail their cost? So, this has been a question right from day one, and because data center always put very aggressive target on themselves. They were the first one in the industry to put a measuring parameter called PUE, and based on that, they decided to, they started measuring their performance. So now what are the methods of curtailing the cost? The method of curtailing cost could be, first one is monitoring. We need to, in a data center, I'm sure many of them earlier speaker and there are data center operators that are doing. First is monitoring. And what are we monitoring? IT load, the IT, how many servers are running, which are performing, which have high load, which are not loaded, what kind of virtualization has been running, how many servers I can shut it down or put it into sleep mode if the load is low. If you can monitor, then you can, and measure, then you can also control. So those kind of infrastructure monitoring software technology should be available in a data center to curtail your cost. Then comes the, most of the data center, in earlier panel discussion, what I heard, I was listening, most of this data center design and implementation is happening at the peak load. You know, if a particular chip has a load of say 300 watt, then the entire calculation is around that 300 watt, the server will be 5 kilowatt, and then the whole cooling is provided for 5 kilowatt, and that is actually not really the case. If you look at the architecture of AI, artificial intelligence, you must have seen, you know, just a simple YouTube, if you open and say, okay, let me learn what is AI. They will show you a number of dots, and each dot is connected to another dot, and this dot is connected to another dot. Now, what is that? Each of them is a CPU, or is an NVIDIA chip, or whatever they call today, connected to another one. Now, the workload get divided and the workload get progress. Now, when one node is working, the others are either could be waiting or could be doing something else, which may not be so much power consuming. So, right, because I'm from Intel and you know, I've been involved in, you know, right at the chip level, no CPU ever performs at a 100% power load. In 1 second, if you split it into a million and another 1,000 of that, a microsecond, a chip is generally resting for 50% of time, because there is so many other things happening in a computer. It is fetching data from the memory and it's waiting. Then it executes certain set of instruction, and then again it's waiting. So what is happening today is, when we talk of megawatt, we are all over calculating and we are designing at the peak load. And that's where, you know, a lot of cost is also going. So if you ask me a question, if somebody can predict eventually what will be the average load, or what will be 10% or 15% above average load, if you start with that, you will save a lot of cost. And that's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Pramod. Coming to you, Chris, you know, basically everything begins at the design stage. You know, if you design right, you can build right. So what are some of the factors, since you have experience in designing data, what are some of the critical factors today that need to be kept in mind when designing a data center?
So thank you for inviting me here with this esteemed panelists. I'm coming from Gensler. I design buildings, data centers especially. So looking at factors, primarily I would say, you know, I started in 2018 when the client told me that these are the spaces, give me a building. And I had to figure out, you know, it's like a puzzle, to be honest. So I had to figure out where each room goes and how the flow happens, how can it be more efficient and optimized. So that's where we started designing data centers. And today, we have so many options in terms of designing. We have to look at a robust brief. So the brief becomes the start point where a client gives us a direction to start with. And then we kind of work with the client to explore what is the optimum design for a data center. Because what happens is sometimes there's a lot of chance to get lost during the process. And to meet the technological advances as well, we need to design and be able to give the client back what he wants. So that's where we start. And obviously, there is a level of trust required between the customer, the client, and us as designers, because we need to understand what the client exactly wants and what the client is trying to provide to the customer. So that helps us, in turn, customize and tailor-make a data center for the client, allowing for them to plan more around phasing, future planning, so they can build less, they can save up on money, and they can also be prepared for the next technological advances that come onto one of their sites. So that's where we start. Obviously, there are other factors that we look into, which are like, what are the phasing strategies that the client would want? because sometimes we do phasing within the site, within the building, and also looking at macro to micro perspective for the overall campus. So macro being, what's the perimeter security like? What's the building security like? And going back into the building, into looking at what are the configurations that we're looking at? What are the rack capacities we're looking at? So all of these kind of form the brief for us to start with. And then we kind of work towards a fully fledged, completely coordinated with all stakeholders. So it's important that we also coordinate with all stakeholders, and all stakeholders have the same say in the design of the building, because every member in a DC sector is so involved in the DC building design that it's extremely critical to understand what each stakeholder is thinking and is wanting from the DC building.
That's interesting. Coming to you, Jagat. Jagat, I mean, Sterling and Wilson has built so many data centers. You have an entire vertical for it. How do you look at, because, sustainability is one of the most critical factors for you. So what is your take after that, after Chris has spoken about design, what is your take on maintaining its sustainability?
Thank you, first of all, to give us opportunity to represent Sterling and Wilson data center here. We are probably the only EPC company today in India whose only business is data center. So it is very good to be here. That is the first thing I would like to address, and thanks all of you. Secondly, coming to the sustainability piece, I am highly disagree with what have been discussed so far. See, we have the customers which we are working with are willing to pay the price which is required to build the sustainable data center. All are here are very much concerned about the targets which all of them are having, right from starting to 2030 to 2070 for the India. So sustainability and design sustainability is very much part of the data center business. So he can very well address how they are doing the design sustainability aspects, right from the selecting the, you can say, electrical equipment which has a saving into it, cooling systems. So all these are very, very much part of the system of the designing. Some gentleman has come up and said that he has some product. So see, boss, having a product and saying is something, and getting certified is something else. So we have a global eco-labeling network. It is called GEN. In India, CII and Green Pro are the organization which has a joined hand together, and he's providing a sustainable product. They are giving us a level 1 eco-labeling product. So if you are confident your product is enough, make in India product, which is generally not available for the Indian customer to cater the data center business, just go get your product certified for level 1 eco-labeling network through CIA Green Pro. World of opportunity will open for you. Okay, so this is one of the, means whomsoever is doing the products and they say that our product is sustainable, this is the one way you can do. If you go to the Green Pro website, you find number of products which are sustainable in nature, which can be used in the data center business. That is a point one. This is a part of this one. Secondly, we are the EPC player who are construction the data center. And while construction and handing over the data center, there are many aspects of sustainability is come. Okay, right from the selecting equipment to construct the data center, then the water flushing, which we are doing in the pipes. So because of our effort, now Telangana state has made mandatorily, they have added the flushing water quantity of the data centers that has been taken care of. While you do the flushing of HVAC system, there are certain amount of water you are generating. And generally, it was not part of the data center and NOC, which has been given by the environmental department. So Telangana State Pollution Control Board has involved by default in all data center that. So effort is required, help is required, and right approach is required to make it happen. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. If I had to ask you the expertise that you bring to the table, Francis, for data centers at Siemens, can you expound a little more on your role as to exactly, because Siemens does multiple things, So what is your role that you play for data centers?
First of all, thank you for giving an opportunity to come on the stage, come onto this, for this discussion. Siemens always take challenges, and data center throws the maximum challenges in India. talking about the Siemens contribution or our contribution to this industry, we are primarily an electrical engineering company graduating into a automation company and now going into a digitalization company. All these things are required for a data centers. First and foremost, the data is generated high. Lot of power is required for the data centers. 220 kV substations, 400 kV substations are the need of the hour. We manufacture that substation and we execute the substation requirements. In the previous panel, the panelist was talking about how can we reduce that time, or why are the OEMs not manufacturing certain equipments in India. The first thing which is required, that is a GIS substation. We can proudly tell that, okay, 90% of the components are indigenously sourced, and we have a manufacturing facilities in Aurangabad in India. So that is the first part. Second is that then coming on to the inside the data centers, the MP medium voltage switchgear, the low voltage switchgear, the fire security or the automation part of it, that is other expertise we bring it to the market. Electrical is definitely the key thing to make the data center reliable, resilient. But if you don't operate the data center properly, you waste a lot of money in cooling. 40% of the energy which goes into a data center is for cooling. So you need to do the optimization of your cooling. We are not a cooling company, but we help the cooling infrastructure in the data center to automate. And we bring the technologies for the cooling. For example, if an Amazon sale is going on at a particular moment, the compute power requirement is high, the cooling requirement is high, and after that, if the sale goes down, the compute power goes down, your cooling requirements goes down. So think of a technology that can scale up and scale down with respect to the load you have, so that you can optimize your cooling energy. We do that. Third, coming into the data center space, security is one of the key aspects. It can be physical security. I think you will vouch on to that, actually, physical security. If some unauthorized entry is there into a data center, it can bring your data center down. So what we do is that we take from the OEMs some of this thing, and we integrate and we give a full data center solutions for the data center market. Cyber security. With lot of AI going into the data centers, AI is good. It throws a lot of challenge, but then you also need to be careful. It's a wild animal. You have to literally tame it. Otherwise, it can create havoc onto your data center operations. So cyber security is one of the aspects which you should really look into it. We are not into the IT cyber security, but whatever equipments which go into the data center, whether it is a sensor, whether it is any of the controllers which go for the automation, everything has to be cyber secured, or it needs to be tested properly for cyber security aspect. Do you know that if you select a sensor into a data center which is not good, that sensor can bring your data center down? How? If the sensor is not operating properly, the temperature goes up in the data center and the servers automatically shut down. So what we do is that we suggest to the customers what are the equipments which you need to take it to the data centers whether that equipment has undergone penetration testing in terms of cybersecurity, so that your data center threat is eliminated. These are some of, then comes on to the fire security. We are the OEMs for fire security. So what we do is, in case and more power into the data center means there is a chance of fire. More and more technology is coming up. The UPSs, which is coming with lithium-ion batteries, it can create a concern for the fire problems. So what we need to do is that we need to monitor and we need to have proper detection system for the fire before it really happens. And then if at all it happens, you need to have some technology which can quench the fire. So these are the various things actually we bring into the data center as a domain experts, and we keep on telling the customer how to run it sustainably. Sustainability is another key factor. We do a lot of sustainability consulting for the data centers. So our customers are updated with the latest trends, latest technologies, and how you can optimize and run your data center successfully.
I will come to the sustainability part later. Okay. My question to you, Ian, you have worked extensively in Europe, or now you've seen the Indian aspect of it. How different, we spoke about it in the first panel, but I want your personal experience about how different are these data centers in Europe and in India?
Yeah, I actually smiled quite a lot in the first panel because a lot of the discussions were about price. And that's probably the biggest difference. Obviously, based in the UK, a lot of my work is done in EMEA, in Europe. And we work with the very largest tech companies. Most of them are from the US. But when we come to India and certain other territories, you're not alone, we see extreme price pressure. And we work with those global leaders to develop global standards because they want to see a repeatable solution on every single facility that they have. But then it comes here, and then there's a lot of discussions on price and the wish to move away from that global standard to find a different solution. But security is, as we've already mentioned, is up there in the sort of the top three considerations. Yes, obviously energy usage, services going towards it, but then we have to, there's a lot of very valuable, very sensitive data within these facilities which need to be protected. There's another country which is quite famous in the same way, which is South Africa. We work with a very large Anglo-Dutch petrochemical company. We have a global standard again. But someone in South Africa decided they were going to use a local supplier, and it didn't meet that standard. The gentleman that made that decision no longer works for that petrochemical company, and within a few months they were ripping that out and replacing it with ours. So it was a very expensive mistake, both personally and financially. And so, yeah, the actual data center, as was mentioned in the first panel, they're very similar, but there is more openness to reduce cost by finding other solutions. So that's probably the biggest difference that I see from Europe looking into India. Okay.
Thank you. Pramod, we were talking about AI data centers. AI data centers are suddenly big. I think they recently inaugurated one in UP, Noida, SIFI has done it, I think, So what is so unique about them? I mean, data centers are intelligent on its own, but what is so unique about the AI data centers that are coming up?
What is so unique about AI data centers? So AI, as you must have, practically I think in this room everybody knows that AI is the news. Yesterday in the CI also they said it's a new tsunami which is likely to come. Now, my view is slightly different here. Like, back in 1995 when we got the mobile phone charges were 16 rupees a minute and everybody was excited, but not everybody could afford it. So, I'll come to your question. So, AI is at that level. It's very expensive, it's exciting, it's going to happen. But is it for common people? Is it really impacting us? It's still some time is there. So what is so unique in AI data center? AI data center, today, there's only one thing which should be, that it should be able to cater to the power needs of and the communication need. Because AI requires two things, high power computing, and when one node is talking to another, you must have seen the speed at which they communicate is very, very high. So those two are technical requirement for an AI data center, which is very unique about. Otherwise, any hyperscale data center which were designed, say, 2 years back with 10 kilowatt of rack can be modified to meet AI challenges by retrofitting it. That's it.
Chris, would that complicate your job?
He spoke about retrofitting, so if it's retrofit, it does complicate a little bit because we have to look at what the structure is like and how the columns are placed and what are the new demands for cooling and firefighting systems and how we are planning all of these equipments that are coming in. So it's definitely a challenge in the form that we as designers, we need to first understand and learn from our MEP counterparts what is this new technology and what are the space requirements for these, because then we can design. So because AI racks have a different sizing, obviously. So when you try and put them into the same data hall that has the older racks, the columns suddenly start popping up in the wrong places. So we need to work very closely in trying to keep it adaptable as far as possible, try and give column-free data halls if possible at all, so that they can adapt with the changing AI requirements. But it's definitely a challenge for sure.
Jagat, what will be the biggest challenges, in future, going forward? What will be the challenges in constructing such data centers in terms of engineering, and how can they be overcome?
I think we are talking about the challenges already. So let me talk about solution now. So is it okay for all of us? Yeah. So we have talked about the power challenges. We have talked about the sustainability challenges. See, enough consultants are available to give you cradle to grave end of life cycle assessment and circular economy assessment for the data center business. In fact, Sterling and Nelson also has a partnership with the Technogreen, which is one of the solution provider of such kind. So in the sustainability piece, there are challenges on the engineering side. As he said that he required more cooling requirement is dry building. Dry building in the sense only civil building is available to you, and then you have to retrofit or change the requirement. We have partnership that is technology called DFMA. So this is MEP, modular fabrication is available. Sterling Wilson also has a partnership in that area that is called TOM, where it is a Singapore-based company where you have a retrofit MEP fabricated model, and depending upon the requirement, you can have that retrofitted or changed to your existing data center as well as your new data center. So we talked about more about the quality, availability of the manpower, so quality can be maintained. Your key technical resources can be saved for the other work. So these are the things which is already available. Same way, once we go to the, we are not talk much about the operation and maintenance parameters, because predictive analysis in the HSE, because I belongs to HSE field, and predictive HSE is one of the key area which we as an organization are working. Similarly, in our business, which align with our business goal, is a predictive analysis of the maintenance of the key system which customer is holding. So we have a partnership with Equilibriums, which give you the, based on the AI system, to use the predictive maintenance or predictive analysis of the system. So there are enough problem is there in the data center business. At the same time, the future is very hopeful. There are enough solution available in the market. Fortunately, I have Mr. Mukul with me. He is from our data center BD business. He knows, so I am not saying that, but the technology, the solution which is available, you can just go to him and ask him. He is one of the pioneer in the data center business, and he can give you all the guidance is available. So that is available. My only thing is that, yes, there is an engineering challenge. So changing rapid, we have talked about 700 days technology has changed. Now your design of data center is suddenly changed. So the adaptability of my engineering department and agility to adopt that change is of utmost importance, because that needs to be done. okay, because the technology has come and then you have to change it. It may happen down the line when they start designing, it has to be changed. So designer are very tough task, okay, to get it accustomed to the design every now and then. But at the same time, the technological aspect we all have to do. Ultimately, we are serving to the customer, and that customer has to get the advantage of what the technological advancement that is coming in the power.
Thank you, Jagat.
I don't know if everybody agrees, but I think the data center sector loves challenges because we're always solving something. Even if it's new technology that comes in, we are solving something together. That's the best part. So when we say challenges, it's not really challenges, but it's our problem-solving attitude that we use to solve those. So not just in the building, but also in terms of codes and regulations also, we're challenging them. We're challenging our vendors and manufacturers of producing new products that is suitable for our building. So I would say challenges help build this entire sector. I don't know if everyone agrees, but...
I can add on to that. We took up a project actually recently. We designed the data center civil was designed, and we designed the other infrastructure which is required to go into the data centers. The building was 12th floor. The customer went and signed up with a AI requirement. The total design changed from 12th floor to 6th floor to, it was for 6th floor, it went up, sorry, I got confused. 12th floor it was designed, but after that it went on to 6th floor, double the height it became because AI requires 18 feet height, 2,500 floor loading, kg per square meter floor loading, and it has to keep heavy GPUs. So the designs are changing. Second thing, in Mumbai, if you literally see, we see a lot of vertical data centers that is going to go out now because there is a limit where you can have a first floor with a loading strength. So a lot of changes as such is coming up. A lot of things as far as AI is bringing into this data center field. And yes, I agree with you. We love challenges and we take on challenges head on.
See, we are in Mumbai and we are discussing Mumbai challenges along with AI data center challenges. Now, this thing can be resolved. You don't have to have 2,500 kilo per square meter and in Mumbai. So we are all product companies and I love to sell. So, but sitting on this channel, on this year, I'm taking slightly a different perspective. We have to reduce the hype. It's too much. If you continue, each salesperson starts selling with a hype, oh, my product is good, then eventually we are selling unnecessary fear to the customer, and that eventually we are going to pay. I don't like paying a Zomato 50 rupees for that vada pav, because eventually he's going to charge me only by using some AI software written somewhere here. So hype has to be reduced. Whatever is required must be done. And that's how, otherwise there's nothing great about an AI data center. It's an engineering aspect. First one will design, will put some effort. But when you start replicate, so how much is the difference of A data center with B data center with C data center? They're all same. Okay? But currently we are all in the sales mode. The market is hot. We are all selling. But go to the engineering aspect, it is nothing rocket science. It can be done. And that's how it should be done, because we have to bring that airtime of your mobile from 16 rupees to 16 paisa. Similarly, AI compute has to be brought down from wherever it is to less than a rupee. And then it will go to the villages. Then it will reach to 140 crore people. So that's the approach I would take. Okay, thanks.
So coming to you, Chris, so when you design, when you design a data center, do you look out for problems and solutions that might come up 10 years down the line or 15 years down the line?
So normally, clients do tell us that, they're planning to expand and be future ready and be adaptable. And also thinking from a sustainable perspective, the biggest carbon producing or embodied is a new construction. An existing building is already constructed, so reusing that is always best. So clients do tell us that, we are planning to go AI if they are being currently designed. So we do prepare to have those AI racks within the same building. So we do include shafts that could cater to the requirements. Say if it's liquid cooled, then we include additional shafts. We do the required for the next couple of years. Can't comment on the next 10 years for sure. I don't know what technology is going to come next, but at least for the recent future, we are definitely prepared while designing these buildings. And I think clients are also aligned on that, and usually it's like a given that we should be designing for the future.
A lot of data centers use renewable energy, right? So why are there still cost overruns and, the expenses are so high? Jagat?
Cost overrun normally are for the projects you want to say, or your operation you want to say? Post-construction. Post-construction, definitely it is due to the energy. And unfortunately, the way we are talking about that, we are taking energy from some renewable source and doing it, it is called all greenwashing. So that is, you shouldn't do that, okay? So, but as a grid, we don't have that green power available. Now the developers and hyperscaler which are coming to India are coming with the certain requirement of having the green power capacity built within the, you can say region or within the India. And then they want to own that capacity, and then that supply power is coming to their data center through the DISCOMs. So no one is interested in doing the greenwashing. People are really concerned, and they actually want to own the power they are consuming. With AI, we are going to consume more power, so people are well aware about it. So there are working is going on around the cooling space, how it is, because 40% power goes to cooling. So liquid cooling system and other methodologies are also coming. So the system is coming, and after that, when you do the operations, you have to have the predictive analysis of whatever the system you are up and running. So this is the few things that is coming. And if I have to take the project overrun cost, as I'm from the EPC company, our favorite subject. So data center company are basically a technical driven organization. So today I have not heard anything about testing and commissioning of data center. For hyperscaler, it takes 3 months. For a normal colocation partner, it takes 1.5 months. This is the time period we are looking for. And then again, we have to construct data center for 8-9 months. Okay, so this is a huge chunk of period we have to give for the testing and commissioning, where right amount of competent people is required, which is not, unfortunately, lesser in the manpower. And this is a unique industry where millennials and Gen Z are working together. Okay, so with all fables and everything, both of them have to work together to successfully get the data center delivered. So this is one of the major reasons to have the project overrun cost while we are doing the EPC business, apart from while we are doing the construction. Construction worker shortage is always there. It is a data center building, MEP service building is a technical job, cable termination is a technical job, so you require technical manpower. You have to take care of them. So then welfare aspect, once I have to go to sustainability, then welfare aspect comes. So we are giving the same facility as what we are giving our engineer to our technicians. Okay, so you can come down to any of our facility project sites and you can see how our workers or workmen who is working with us and our engineer lives. Both have the same living standard. In fact, some of our electrician lives in our engineers accommodation. Okay, so to accommodate them. So the world is changing. You have to respect the technical aspect, technical capability which people carries with them. And then if you respect them, you will get the delivery. So this is the few major things that is happening to overturn the business. But at the same time, solution is available. I have already talked about DFMS, which is a prefabricated MEP structure, where your technical people you save, because that has been all factory prefabricated, come to your site and that particular manpower can be utilized for other purpose. See, we are India, we are having shortage of, very shortage of the highly skilled, semi-skilled and high-skilled manpower who actually works with their bare hands. So we have to keep in that mind whenever you are doing any project.
Francis, you were talking about sustainability, when you talk about, energy and renewable thing. So what is some of the things that your company brings to the table as far as sustainability only is concerned?
Okay. Sustainability is a big topic, first of all. Anything which you talk of sustainability, you need to have the power, starting from the power. I even will start from the design. Sustainability in design, how do we do that? There are technologies available called something called as digital twin. If you talk about designing a data center first, you design in a paper or a system and then take the printouts on the paper. Multiple people looks onto it, do corrections. The paper goes up and down. Takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of paper. Why can't you do it digitally so that all can assess these designs together and they can sign off? First part, sustainability in design. Second thing, if I have designed a first floor of a data center and the second floor has to be replicated, and if this design is already into a system, I don't take much man hours. I don't want to redo everything which I have. I have got all the suppliers' name, all the dimensions of the equipment which is going on into that particular flow. It is my sustainability in design is happening there. Talking about the energy which is being used. Go to places where you have green power. We need to have more and more previous discussions, if you talk about why can't we move into the tier 2 and tier 3 cities and build up data centers there. In India, we have very hot temperatures in places like Nagpur, where you can have solar power and various other things, and you can run your data center in a better way. So sustainability in design, the power which comes in. Third thing, do you really want to replace all the equipments after a particular period of operations? My answer is no. Certain components, if you change within that panel, then you get the life of running it. So sustainability in the operations or sustainability in the life cycle. Circular economy, somebody has talked about a circular economy. Data center generates a lot of heat. Why can't we take this heat again back into the system and use it to operate your cooling system? Because in cooling, you need to have the temperature. You put this heat generated in the data center to the cooling systems and optimize your cooling. The water which is used in the data center, why can't we reuse it? Some of the materials which are being used, why can't you reuse it again? Why can't you have some sort of concrete or the green building concepts being made to make the data center, the structure itself cool? Why can't you have solar panels onto the data center buildings so that you can have some of the energy which can be used? There are a lot of things which you can bring to sustainability into data centers. It is all what you design and what you do.
Thank you. I think we're running out of time. Yeah, so Ian, my last question to you is, what are some of the unique solutions you have exclusively for data centers?
Change my answer a little bit because it's, if I look back when we first started trying to sell to the large tech companies, we were a supplier of products, and it didn't work. For the suppliers in the room, that will not work. What we had to change into was become a solution partner. And what's the difference? Well, effectively, we have to really understand what the client wants, what they need to achieve, and then deliver a bespoke solution for them, which can then be repeatable around the world. And when we talk about those kinds of unique solutions, effectively it ends up with the inputs and outputs that specific customer requires. If we can really define that, what data do they want to get out of it, and what will they do with that data when it comes to them? If we have those discussions in a very knowledgeable way, and then we understand the access control infrastructure that's coming into, then we can really put the two together and be kind of that middleman between the actual client and then the security integrator, which is our normal route, our contractual route in. And that's paid dividends. So if there's any suppliers in the room that really want to get into some of the, it's an incredible, profitable sector to be involved in. You have to really embed yourself and become an expert so you can then deliver those bespoke solutions. So, as I said, it's not exactly an answer to your question, but it gives a good clue to all the suppliers in the room. That's the route to success. So,
Thank you, gentlemen. We are running out of time, so we'll have to close this discussion. Can I call Prashant Kumar from Dormakaba and Indrajit Sauji to felicitate the panel? Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.